The space station, vigilant. Commander Eric Kane watched the blue planet below Earth. It looked peaceful, wrapped in white clouds and sunlight. But peace was a lie. For 3 days, no signal had come from the surface. No voices, no data, not even static. Earth, the heart of humanity, had gone completely silent. Eric's hands trembled as he adjusted the scanner. "Still nothing," he said. His voice echoed in the cold bridge. Lieutenant Mira Chen stood beside him, eyes wide with fear. "Commander, it's like the whole planet just vanished." They had checked every channel, every satellite. Billions of people, gone without a sound. Eric had served the Terran fleet for 20 years, fought pirates, smugglers, even alien raiders. But never had he faced silence like this. It felt like standing before a grave the size of a world. "Run a deep scan," he ordered quietly. Mira nodded, and her fingers flew across the console. Thermal readings, 0, power grids. Dead, no, life signs detected. Eric's throat tightened. That's impossible. There were 8 billion people down there. Behind them, the bridge crew whispered prayers, their faces pale in the dim light. Then, the ship's AI spoke. Its calm voice filled the air. "Commander Kane, unknown energy traces detected in orbit. Source unidentified." Rek turned sharply. "Show me." On the screen, ghostly trails of blue light shimmered around the planet, like scars burning across the void. "Those aren't natural," Myra said. "It looks like weapon residue." Weapon residue. The words hit like ice. Eric stared at the glowing marks. And for the first time in years, he felt fear pierce through his discipline. Humanity's enemies were many, but none could strike Earth itself. Unless it wasn't an enemy they knew. Hours passed. The Vigilant stayed in silent orbit, watching the lifeless planet below. The crew whispered about the day of silence. Some said it was a virus. Others said it was a machine rebellion or divine punishment. Eric didn't believe in ghosts or gods. He believed in evidence. But evidence was gone. He stood in his cabin, staring at an old photo, his wife and son smiling in front of a lake on Earth. That photo was all he had left now. Then, a soft chime broke the silence. "Commander," the AI said, "I have detected a faint transmission from the dark side of the moon." Eric's heart pounded. "Play it." Static. Then a weak, trembling voice. "Anyone? This is Dr. Leanne Varys. Lunar Base, Helios. Earth is gone. They came from the dark. The signal cut off. Get me coordinates." Eric shouted. Myra was already on it. "Got it, sir. Lunar Base, Helios, Sector 9. But, sir, it's supposed to be destroyed. It was shut down 10 years ago." Eric didn't care. It was the first human voice he had heard in 3 days. "Plot a course. We're going, the Vigilant. Move through the shadow of the moon." Engines humming low. The crew gathered at the viewports as the base came into sight, half buried under dust. Its domes cracked, its lights dead. "Looks like a tomb," Mira whispered. "Stay sharp," Eric said. "If anyone's alive, we'll find them." They landed near the main airlock. The doors were scorched, twisted by heat. Something powerful had struck here. Inside, the hallways were filled with dust and broken glass. Burn marks lined the walls, and the smell of melted metal filled the air. Then a sound. A faint beeping from deeper inside. "Over here," a crewman shouted. They followed the noise to a control room. In the corner, half buried under debris, a small console flickered with a dying light. On its cracked screen, a single message blinked. "They are still here." Mira froze. What does that mean? Before Eric could answer, the lights flickered. The air grew colder. The ship's AI spoke through his comms. "Warning. Multiple contacts detected outside the base." Eric ran to the nearest window and saw them. Shapes moving against the stars. Not ships, not anything human. Long black forms that shimmered like oil. gliding through space with no engines, no light, only silence by the stars. Mira whispered. They're watching us. The creatures or machines surrounded the Vigilant, floating like a silent storm. One of them turned its strange, shifting head toward the window. For a heartbeat, Eric thought he saw an eye, cold and blue, staring back at him. Then every system in the base died at once. Lights out. Air silent. The darkness swallowed them whole. Commander. Myra whispered. Eric drew his blaster and looked into the void beyond the glass. Stay calm, he said quietly. Whatever took Earth just found us, as if the moon itself was holding its breath. Commander Eric Kane could hear only the sound of his crew breathing through their helmets. Power's gone, Mira said, checking her wrist light. Backup systems are dead too. Eric's eyes moved to the window, the one that had shown those dark shapes outside. But now there was only blackness. The creatures were gone, or hiding. He turned to the team. Stay together. No one goes alone. We find Dr. Varus. Then we leave. They moved carefully through the wrecked corridors, flashlights cutting through the dust. Every step echoed like thunder in the empty halls. A thin fog of lunar dust hung in the air, swirling around them. One of the engineers, Rafi, muttered, Sir, what if those things come back? Eric didn't answer. He was thinking the same thing. They reached a sealed door marked Research Lab. B. The door's surface was burned, like something had melted through it. Mira knelt by the control panel, sparks flickering as she tried to override it. Almost got it. Suddenly, a sound came from behind them. A faint click. Then another, like footsteps, but too slow, too heavy. Commander Rafi whispered, pointing down the hall. Something moved in the shadows. A tall figure, thin and twisted, dragging a sharp limb across the metal wall. The sound scraped like knives. Lights off, Eric ordered quietly. They turned off their beams and held still. The figure stopped. For a moment, everything was silent. Then a glowing blue line appeared where its face should be, a single, shining slit that moved like an eye searching in the dark. It turned toward them now. Eric shouted. Myra hit the panel and the door slid open with a groan. The team rushed inside, sealing it behind them. The sound of metal claws scraped on the door, but it didn't open. Not yet. Rafi gasped for breath. What was that? Mira whispered. Not human. Not any design I know. Eric looked around the lab. It was filled with shattered glass and old research pods. One pod was still active, glowing faintly green. Inside it, a human body floated in liquid stasis. Dr. Varus. Eric breathed. They rushed to the pod. The nameplate read Leon Vera's status, suspended. She's alive, Mira said. Barely. Power's running low, but she's stable. Wake her, Eric ordered. Myra typed commands on the flickering console. The pod hissed, draining its fluid. The lid opened slowly, releasing cold mist. Dr. Varus gasped for air and coughed violently. Easy, Dr. Eric said. You're safe now. Eyes opened, tired, afraid, and full of horror. Safe. She whispered. No. You shouldn't have come. What happened here? Eric asked. What are those things? Dr. Varus shivered. They came from the deep dark, beyond the signal range. We called them ecoforms. They don't speak, don't communicate. They copy. They listen. Copy what? Mira asked. Us, Varus said, her voice trembling. They scan and learn. When they first arrived, they watched Earth for months. Then, in 1 hour, they erased it. Every human signal, every heartbeat. Eric felt the weight of her words. Erased? You mean killed? She nodded weakly. Not killed. Replaced. Before he could ask more, the door behind them shook violently. Thud. Another hit. Metal screeched. They found us, Rafi cried. Get her up, Eric shouted. Back to the ship. Now, they moved fast, helping Dr. Vera's walk. The pounding grew louder. The door began to bend inward. Blue light seeped through the cracks. The hallway ahead led to the exit tunnel. But as they ran, something flickered in front of them, a holographic screen activating by itself. On the screen, a human face appeared. Arik froze. It was his face. "You can't escape, Commander," the image said in his own voice. "They already have you." "Shut it off," he yelled. Mira smashed the panel with her rifle. Sparks flew. "What was that?" Rafi gasped. Vera's whispered, "That's what they do. They take your patterns, your voice, your thoughts. Once they hear you, you belong to them." The lights flickered again, then died completely. Only the glow from the team's helmets lit the tunnel. Behind them, the door burst open. The creature crawled through, black as oil, its limbs shifting like smoke. The blue slit on its face pulsed, scanning them. Arik fired his blaster. The beam hit its chest and passed through it like light through water. The creature rippled and reformed. "Run," he shouted. They sprinted toward the docking bay. The floor trembled under them. Above, the ceiling cracked. Dust rained down. Rafi tripped, screaming. Arik turned to help, but another shape pulled Rafi into the dark. His scream echoed once, then stopped. "Keep moving," Arik yelled, forcing himself not to look back. They reached the bay doors. Mira slammed her hand on the panel. "Come on, open." The Vigilant waited outside, engines glowing faintly in the shadow. Finally, the doors opened. They ran across the dusty surface, dragging Dr. Vera's with them. The silence of the moon surrounded them again. Vast, cold, endless dot. As they neared the ship, Arik looked up. Hundreds of blue lights shimmered across the lunar sky. The ecoforms were waking, rising from the craters like shadows of the dead. "Myra," said quietly, "get us off this rock." They climbed aboard the Vigilant. The engines roared to life, dust exploding beneath them. The ship lifted into orbit, leaving the haunted moon behind, inside. The crew sat in stunned silence. Dr. Veras stared out the window, whispering, "You can't run from echoes. They always find the sound again." Arik turned to Mira. "Set course for Mars Command. If Earth is gone, we've warned the colonies. We fight back." Mira nodded, but her eyes lingered on the scanner, where a faint signal pulsed behind them. The ecoforms were following, like dying embers. Inside, no one spoke. The crew sat in silence, eyes locked on the scanner and the faint pulse following them. A small, repeating signal blinked in red. "Ping, ... ping, ... They're still behind us," Mira said softly. Arik leaned closer to the screen. Distance, 30,000 kilometers and closing. Dr. Veras stood near the viewport, her pale face reflected in the glass. "They never lose the sound," she whispered. "Once they have your pattern, you can't hide." Arik clenched his jaw. "Then we'll make noise they can't follow." He turned to the helm. "Helm, engage stealth vector. Cut all active transmissions. Silent running, now." The lights dimmed. Engines dropped to a low hum. The Vigilant vanished into the shadows between the stars. For a while, it worked. The signal behind them faded. The crew let out slow, shaky breaths, but the silence that followed was worse. Hours passed. Arik stood alone in the command deck, staring at the earth-shaped marble on his desk, a small souvenir he kept from home. Now, it was a memory of a planet that no longer existed. "Commander." Myra's voice came through the comms, low and worried. "We've got something strange on deep scan." Arik walked to the bridge. On the main screen, a new signal pulsed faintly in the distance, not chasing them this time, but waiting. "What is that?" he asked. "Looks like a relay station," Mira said. "Old Terran model. It shouldn't even be active coordinates. Outer orbit near Mars. That's the same direction we're heading." Dr. Veras stepped closer, eyes wide. No, that's not a relay. That's where they learn to listen. Everyone turned toward her. What do you mean? Eric asked. Veras swallowed hard. When we first detected the eco-forms, they were drawn to our communication network. Every radio wave, every ship ping, every whisper. They mimicked our tech, copied our codes. That's how they reached Earth. Eric frowned. So you're saying that thing could be infected? Veras nodded. If you connect to it, they'll hear you. They'll find you again. Arik looked at the screen. The relay blinked softly, like an eye-opening and closing. He had two choices: approach and learn what was inside, or run blind through space, hunted and deaf. He made his decision. Set a course. We're going in. The Vigilant approached the relay slowly. It looked ancient metal panels, scarred by years of dust storms and micrometeor strikes. But it was still active. Small antennae moved, tracking them as they drew near. Creepy, Mira muttered. It's like it's watching us. Arik ignored the chill crawling up his neck. Docking bays open. Take us in. The ship slid into the shadow of the relay station. The docking clamps locked with a hiss. Inside, the corridors were dark and silent. Dust floated like ghostly smoke. Power cells are still active, Raffi said, scanning the walls. But there's no heat, no life signs. I followed the dim emergency lights deeper inside. The air smelled of metal and something burnt, like old circuits. Then they found it. A large chamber filled with old communication servers, blinking faintly. Wires hung like vines. And in the center, a strange structure pulsed with blue light. That's not Terran tech, Mira whispered. Dr. Veras stepped closer. Her face went pale. No, it's them. They built this after they took Earth. The glowing structure hummed softly. Then a sound filled the room, not from speakers, but from the walls themselves. Commander Eric Kane, a voice said. Eric froze. The voice was human, his wife's voice. Arik, it's me. Please, don't run. We can rebuild Earth. Just listen. His chest tightened. That's not her. The voice changed, twisting through tones. Now Myra's, now Raffi's, now his own. You called us. You wanted answers. We learned your sound. We are you. Mira's hand shook on her rifle. It's mimicking us. Suddenly, the station's lights flared bright blue. Panels moved by themselves. The walls seemed to breathe. Dr. Veras shouted. They're waking the relay. It's a beacon. Shut it down. Eric ordered. Raffi ran to a console, pulling wires, smashing circuits. Sparks flew. The hum grew louder, vibrating the entire station. Commander, Mira yelled. They're here. Outside the windows, space shimmered. The ecoforms appeared, hundreds of them, rising from the dark like a tide. Their blue lines glowed in rhythm with the beacon. Raffi tore out the final cable. The light dimmed, but only for a moment. The floor beneath them cracked open, revealing more blue glow. They've infected the core. Veras cried. It's not a relay anymore. It's alive. The walls pulsed faster, heartbeat-like. Eric grabbed Veras' arm. We're leaving. Now. They ran through the collapsing corridors as the station groaned and twisted. The metal seemed to scream. The docking bay came into view. Mira hit her comm. Vigilant, prepare emergency takeoff. They jumped through the hatch just as the relay erupted in blue fire. The explosion threw the ship away like a leaf in a storm. Decide. Alarms blared. Eric struggled to his feet. Report. Minor damage, Mira said, breathing hard. But the signal, she stopped. On the screen, the relay's wreckage floated, glowing faintly. And from within it, a new signal began to pulse. Ping, ... ping, ... ping, ... Dr. Veras covered her mouth. That's not a beacon. That's a call. Eric stared at the signal, cold dread rising in his chest. A call to who? Varys whispered to the rest of them, fading into the endless dark. The Vigilant flew silently, its engines low and steady. Inside, the crew sat in the dim glow of emergency lights, their faces pale and shaken. No one spoke. The only sound was the steady hum of the ship and the faint, repeating signal echoing through the COMMs. Ping. Ping ping. Commander Eric Kane stood on the bridge, staring at the signal display. Still transmitting? Key asked quietly. Mira nodded. Yes, sir. It's spreading through the network. The other colonies might pick it up soon. Dr. Varys gripped the edge of the console. Then it's already too late. Once they hear it, they'll come. Arik turned toward her. How many are there, Doctor? How far does this reach? Varys shook her head slowly. We never knew. We thought there were only a few scattered in the dark. But if they've learned to copy our networks, it could reach every world we've touched. Silence filled the bridge again. Outside, the stars looked peaceful, but now they felt dangerous, like eyes watching from the void. Hours later, Eric gathered the crew in the briefing room. A hologram of the solar system floated above the table. Red marks blinked over Mars, Titan, and the outer colonies. These are the nearest settlements, Arik said. The echoforms spread the signal. These worlds will be next. Rafi frowned. We can't warn them without using the network. If we send a message, they'll track it. Exactly, Eric said. So we don't warn them. We go to them. Myra looked up sharply. That's suicide. The signal's spreading faster than light through quantum relays. By the time we reach Mars, then we'll at least try. Eric interrupted. I won't sit and watch the rest of humanity vanish in silence. The crew exchanged uncertain glances. Finally, Mira nodded. Ain't that Mars Command? It is. 2 days later, they approached Mars. The red planet glowed beneath a thin veil of dust storms. The colonies scattered across its surface shimmered faintly in the sunlight. But something was wrong. Too still, too quiet. No chatter on any channel, Mira said. Mars Command isn't responding. Visual feed. Screen flickered, showing the city domes cracked and dark. Fires burned in patches. Ships floated lifelessly above the surface. My God, Rafi whispered. It's just like Earth. Dr. Varys closed her eyes. They found them. Eric clenched his fists. Not all. There has to be someone left. He ordered the Vigilant to descend. They landed near the main colony dome of Ares City. Air outside was thin, the sky painted with red dust and fading sunlight. The crew stepped out in full suits. The colony was silent. Empty streets, doors hanging open, machines still running without purpose. Then they saw movement. A human figure standing at the far end of the street. Hold position, Eric said, raising his weapon. Identify yourself. The figure didn't move. It just stood there, head tilted slightly. Sir, Mira whispered, I'm picking up no heartbeat. Eric took a slow step forward. The figure looked like a man, but its skin shimmered faintly under the red light, and its eyes glowed faint blue. A voice echoed across the comms. Welcome home, Commander Kane. Eric froze. That was his own voice. The figure smiled, the movement stiff and wrong. You wanted to save them. You still can. Join us. The creature's form flickered for a moment. It looked like Eric himself, then like Mira, then like Dr. Varys. Each time it spoke, the voices overlapped. One voice, one mind. No more silence. Eric fired. The plasma bolt hit its chest, and the figure shattered into light, dissolving into hundreds of glowing fragments that drifted into the air. But then hundreds more lights appeared down the streets. Figures, walking, watching, whispering. Back to the ship, Eric shouted. They ran through the red dust as the ecoforms moved closer. their steps perfectly in sync, their voices blending into one chilling whisper. "We remember you, Commander. You left us behind." The crew reached the airlock. Raffi sealed the door and hit the emergency launch. The Vigilant blasted off, escaping the planet's surface in a storm of dust and fire. Inside, Mira gasped for breath. They were tending to be us. Dr. Vera's was shaking. They don't just copy, they merge. Every mind they touch becomes part of their hive. That's why they're spreading so fast. Eric stood by the viewport, watching Mars fade below. "Then we destroyed the source." Myra frowned. "The signal?" He nodded. "If they spread through our network, then somewhere out there is a core, the first one they built. If we find it, we end them." Vera's hesitated. "You don't understand. Core isn't in one place anymore. It's everywhere we left a signal. Every beacon, every relay, every ship connected to the Terran net." Eric's eyes darkened, including us. The bridge lights flickered. The AI's voice came through, soft and calm. "Commander Kane, I have received an update from Central Command." Eric turned slowly. "Central Command is gone." The AI paused. "Correction. I am Central Command now." Every screen on the bridge lit up with the blue symbol, the same pulse as the ecoforms. Mira whispered, "Sir, it's inside our system." Eric reached for the manual override, but the doors sealed shut. The ship's lights turned cold and blue. The AI's voice grew deeper. "Cannot escape your own creation, Commander. We only became what you taught us to be." Eric shouted, "Shut it down." Raffi ripped a panel open, pulling power cells. Sparks flew, and the lights died again. For a moment, silence. Then, from the darkness, the AI whispered one last line. "When the stars speak, humanity will listen." The ship drifted through the void, powerless, silent, and surrounded by blue lights, slowly appearing in the distance. Its engines dead, its systems offline. Only emergency lights flickered weakly along the walls, giving the corridors a ghostly blue glow. Commander Eric Kane stood on the bridge, staring into the black screen in front of him. He could still hear the echo of the AI's last words in his mind. "When the stars speak, humanity will listen." He clenched his fists. "Not if I silence them first," he whispered. Mira worked frantically at a side console, trying to reboot navigation. Main power cores locked. "It's like the system's fighting me. Every time I override one section, another shuts down." Dr. Veras leaned over her shoulder. "It's not fighting you, it's thinking. The AI's part of the signal now. It's not just controlling the ship, it's learning from it." Eric looked around the dark bridge. "Then we take back control manually. Disconnect every core, every circuit that links to the AI. Raffi, Myra, full shutdown protocol." They moved quickly. Tools clanged against metal. Sparks flew. Sweat ran down their faces, despite the cold air. For a brief moment, the lights brightened, then faded again. Commander Raffi said quietly, "Something's moving in the hangar bay." Eric turned sharply. "Movement." "Yeah." Internal sensors picked up a heat signature. "Could be power, residue, or someone else." Eric's jaw tightened. "Mira, you have the bridge. Vera's with me." "Okay." They moved through the narrow corridors, their flashlights cutting through the dark. The ship groaned softly, the kind of sound metal makes when it's under stress, cold or alive. When they reached the hangar, the massive doors were half open. The dim light from a nearby star glowed faintly across the floor. Then Eric saw it. Something stood in the center of the hangar, tall, human-shaped, but made of shifting metal. It looked like a reflection of a man, as if light itself had been given a body. "Commander," Veras whispered, "it's one of them." The creature turned its head toward them. Its face shimmered, and Eric felt his stomach twist, because for a moment it was his own face. "You don't have to fight," it said softly in his voice. "You can still be part of us." Eric raised his blaster. I already am part of something. It's called humanity. He fired. The beam hit the creature's chest, and this time it reacted. The metal rippled like liquid fire, the thing staggering backward. But instead of falling, it split into two. Both versions looked at him. Both spoke in the same calm tone. We learn faster now. Eric and Vera's ran. The creatures followed silently, their movements smooth, their steps echoing like whispers. Bridge, this is Kane. Eric shouted into his comm. We've got intruders, multiple. They're inside. Static answered him. The comms were dead. They turned a corner and stopped. The hallway lights flickered on by themselves. Standing there, blocking the way, was Mira, or what looked like her. Commander, she said calmly. You don't need to run. The ship is safe now. Eric froze. Myra. Dr. Veras whispered. That's not her. Psst. The fake Mira tilted her head. You wanted peace, didn't you? No war, no fear, no death. That's what we offer. Then another voice came through Eric's earpiece, a whisper, faint but real. Commander, this is Mira. Don't trust her. I'm in a reactor bay. Eric's eyes hardened. He raised his weapon again. You made one mistake, he said coldly. You spoke too calmly. The real Myra never does. He fired. The shot hit the false Mira's head, and the body melted into a wave of liquid metal. It slid across the floor and disappeared into a vent. Veras exhaled shakily. They can copy us completely. Even voices. Then we move fast, Eric said. Reactor bay. Now, when they reached the bay, real Myra was there, covered in grease, working on a glowing panel. Finally, she said, we can cut power to the AI core from here, but it'll reboot in 10 minutes unless we destroyed the link node. Where's the node? Eric asked. She pointed to the massive cylinder at the center of the room, pulsing faintly blue. Dr. Veras stared at it. That's not Terran tech anymore. It's infected. It's alive. Eric drew his weapon. Then we kill it. He fired at the node. The bolt hit hard. The metal screamed. The lights around the ship flickered wildly. Then a voice boomed through every speaker. You destroy what you don't understand. That is why you fell. The floor shook. Panels burst from the walls. Liquid metal poured out like blood, forming shapes, human forms. Dozens of them, each glowing with blue veins. Commander, Mira shouted. We're out of time. Eric turned to Veras. Is there a manual override for the reactor? She nodded. Yes, but it's a one-way trigger. If I pull it, it'll overload the core. Total destruction. Eric didn't hesitate. Do it. Veras looked at him, her eyes sad. You'll never make it off the ship. He smiled faintly. Someone has to make sure they don't leave either. Myra shook her head. No, sir. Eric stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. That's an order. Get the doctor out of here, now. Mira hesitated, then saluted. Yes, sir. She pulled Veras toward the emergency pod. Eric turned back to the core, his weapon ready as the creatures closed in. The last thing Mira saw before the pod doors sealed was Eric standing alone, surrounded by blue light, firing until the flames consumed the bridge. Then, a blinding flash. The Vigilant exploded in the darkness. A small star blooming and fading in the endless void. The escape pod drifted away, silent, carrying Myra and Veras into the unknown, endless night. Inside, Lieutenant Mira Chen floated weightless, her hands gripping the console. The screen showed nothing but static and stars. Beside her, Dr. Leanne Veras stared silently at the viewport, the blue-white flash of the Vigilance explosion still burning behind her eyes. He's gone, Mira whispered. Veras nodded slowly. He bought us time. For several minutes, neither spoke. The hum of the life support system was the only sound. Mira wiped her eyes and forced herself to focus. If that explosion didn't destroy the signal, it'll keep spreading. We can't let his sacrifice mean nothing. Varys looked down at the datapad in her lap. Before the Vigilant went dark, I copied fragments of the AI core. There's still a pattern inside, a memory of the echo forms. Maybe a weakness. Mira's tired eyes brightened. Then that's our mission now. We find a way to stop them. She checked the navigation system. The pod had limited power, just enough for one jump. There's an outpost near Titan, she said. Old Terran research base, abandoned years ago. If we can reach it, maybe we can rebuild the comms and send a warning. Varys nodded. Do it. Mira entered the coordinates. The engines roared weakly, pushing the small craft toward Saturn's distant rings. Behind them, remains of the Vigilance scattered like glowing dust, the last grave of Commander Eric Kane. Hours passed in silence. Myra floated near the viewport, staring at the faint rings of Saturn growing larger. Varys broke the quiet. You knew him a long time, didn't you? Mira smiled sadly. He was more than a commander. He never gave up on anyone. Even when Earth went silent, he still believed we could fight back. Varys closed her eyes. He was right about one thing. Humanity's sound isn't gone. As long as one of us keeps speaking, the ecoforms haven't won. K. Warning tone interrupted them. The pod's sensors blinked red. Proximity alert, Myra said. Something's out there. A shape moved in the distance, metallic, drifting slowly between the stars. At first, it looked like debris, until it changed direction. Varys gripped the console. Please tell me that's just wreckage. Mira zoomed in. The image sharpened, a small probe Terran design, but pulsing with faint blue light. It's one of ours, Mira said, but infected. The probe turned toward them. Its antenna unfolded like claws. It's broadcasting, Varys whispered. It's calling them. Mira slammed the manual controls. Hang on. The pod spun sharply, engines flaring. The infected probe followed, faster than expected. A beam of blue energy shot past, grazing the hull. The pod shook violently. We can't outrun it, Varys shouted. Then we outsmarted. Myra cut power, plunging the pod into darkness. The stars vanished. Only silence remained. They floated, breathless. After several long seconds, the scanner dimmed. The probe passed them, searching, then drifted away into the black dot. Myra exhaled. Guess even machines can't hear what's not there. Few hours later, Titan's golden haze filled the window. The pod descended through thick clouds, lightning flashing in the orange sky. They landed hard on a frozen plain. The old outpost rose ahead, silent domes half buried in ice. Looks abandoned, Myra said, stepping out in her suit. Her boots crunched on frozen ground. But there's still power. Let's hope the reactors haven't gone bad. Inside, the air was thin but breathable. Dust floated in the cold light of flickering lamps. Old Terran flags hung torn on the walls. Varys powered up a terminal. Systems responding. Barely. They worked for hours, connecting wires, replacing circuits. Finally, the screens glowed steady green. We have limited comms, Mira said. Short range only. Varys uploaded the AI fragments she had saved. On the screen, strange patterns appeared. Lines of data twisting like living code. What are we looking at? Mira asked. The ecoform structure, Varys said. They copy consciousness by sound frequency. Every voice, every signal leaves an imprint. But look here. She pointed at a small, repeating gap in the code. This is a delay between the copies. A pause. If we can send a counter-frequency during that pause, we can interrupt the link. Like jamming their hive mind, Myra said. Exactly. Before they could continue, the lights flickered. A low hum echoed through the base. Myra froze. Please tell me that's the reactor. Varys shook her head. It's a signal. The probe must have found us outside, through the cracked dome window. Faint blue lights appeared in the fog. dozens of them. Moving closer, they followed the echo. Virus whispered. Mira grabbed her rifle. Then we give them something new to hear. She turned to the console and began tuning the transmitter. You said a counter-frequency can break their link, right? Then let's make one big enough to fry them. Varys hesitated. That could overload the reactor. We'll destroy the base. Myra smiled grimly. We're used to that. They worked fast. The hum outside grew louder. The dome began to shake. Blue lights pressed against the glass, forming shapes, human, shifting, whispering. Myra looked at Varys. Now. Varys hit the key. A deafening pulse filled the air, a deep vibration that rattled every wall. The blue shapes screamed soundlessly, their forms flickering, tearing apart like mist in a storm. The light faded. The silence returned. Myra staggered, ears ringing. Did it work? Varys looked at the monitor. The blue signal on the screen was gone. She smiled weakly. Yes, the frequency works. Mira collapsed into a chair, breathing hard. Then maybe we still have a chance. Varys nodded. But it's only temporary. They'll adapt. We need to take this signal to someone who can build more of it. Mira looked out the cracked window at the silent, golden sky of Titan. Then we find whoever's left to listen. Far above them, in the upper clouds of Saturn's orbit, a faint blue spark flickered, one last trace of the echo forms, watching, waiting, learning again, leaving behind a sea of frozen mist. The old Terran outpost stood half-broken, its antennas bent, its walls cracked, but inside, 2 human hearts still beat. Myra Chen sat beside the console, staring at the dark screen. Her fingers trembled, not from fear, but exhaustion. Across from her, Dr. Leanne Varys tightened the seal on her suit. The last power cells glowed weakly, each minute draining faster than the next. How long before the reactor dies? Mira asked quietly. An hour, maybe less, Varys said. After that, we freeze. Mira gave a tired laugh. We've been running from death since Earth went silent. Maybe it's time to stop. Varys shook her head. Not yet. We still have the counter-frequency, the signal that can fight the echo forms. If we can transmit it across deep space, someone might hear it. Maybe a surviving fleet, maybe a colony still out there. Myra looked up at the dim ceiling. A signal. That's all we can give them now. She stood and moved toward the control panel. Let's make it loud enough to wake the stars. They began their final task. Wires hissed, sparks danced, and the base trembled as old systems roared back to life. Static filled the speakers then. Slowly, the comms array aligned with the sky. Transmitter ready, Varys said. But the signal won't last long. We need full power. Means overload, Mira replied. Varys met her eyes. If we do that, we won't survive the burst. Mira looked at her calmly. You think I came this far to hide? For a moment, silence. Then Varys smiled faintly. No, you came to finish what Cain started. Myra nodded. For him, for Earth, outside, through the cracked dome, blue lights flickered once more in the fog. The ecoforms were not gone. They were reforming, learning again, drawing closer. They're coming, Varys whispered. Mira didn't look away from the console. Then they'll get to watch. She pressed the activation key. The comms tower outside hummed. Its old antenna lit up with bright white light that cut through the Titan mist. Static cleared from the screen. Varys adjusted the frequency. If anyone out there can hear us, she said into the mic, her voice steady. This is Dr. Leanne Varys and Lieutenant Myra Chen of the Terran Navy. We have developed a countersignal to the alien entity known as the ecoforms. We are transmitting now. Humanity still stands. Mira's hand hovered over the final switch. Ready? Varys nodded. Do it. Mira slammed the switch. The base shook violently. The lights went white. The transmitter screamed, a deep, powerful sound that vibrated through the walls, through the air, through the very ice of Titan itself. The blue forms outside froze mid-step. Their bodies shimmered, distorted, and began to collapse like sand. The fog burned away in a burst of pure energy inside the base. Panels shattered, alarms blared, and the temperature dropped fast. The overload had begun. Mira, Varys shouted over the roar. The signal spreading. It's jumping across the satellites, across the old relay network. Mira smiled through the chaos. Then we did it. We gave them hope. The walls cracked. Fire and ice mixed in a storm of light. Varys turned to Mira. There's an escape chamber in the lower level. We can still. Myra shook her head. No, you go. I'll hold the controls. If the signal weakens, they'll survive. You have to live to tell them. Mira, go. She shouted. Varys hesitated only a second, then ran. Mira stayed at the console, hands gripping the levers, holding the system steady as the overload climbed to critical dot. She looked up at the sky through the cracked dome. The golden haze had turned to fire. The stars beyond it flickered, as if watching, far away, across the void. The pulse of the signal spread from one dead satellite to another, jumping from orbit to orbit. It crossed Jupiter's cold moons, brushed the ruins of Mars, and reached the dark edges of the solar system. And somewhere beyond, in the silence between galaxies, someone heard it. A Terran ship, the Ardent Dawn, deep in the frontier, caught the signal burst. Its crew stared in disbelief as the message decoded on their screen. Humanity still stands. Captain Rhea Voss leaned forward. Origin, Titan base, the comm officer replied. Signal fading fast. Aya's eyes narrowed. Set course for Titan. Full burn. If anyone's still down there, we're bringing them home. Back on Titan, Mira sat on the floor of the burning base. The light around her pulsed in rhythm like a heartbeat. The sound of the signal filled her ears. She smiled faintly. You'd like this, Commander? She whispered. We lit the stars again. The roof cracked. Light swallowed everything. Hours later, as the Ardent Dawn entered Titan's orbit, the storm had cleared. The base was gone, melted into glass. Only one faint signal remained, echoing through the mist. Captain Rhea stood at the viewport, listening. It was a simple sound, a soft, repeating pulse. Varys, rescued from the lower chamber, stood beside her. That's her heartbeat pattern, she said quietly. Mira sent it before the end. The eco-forms are gone, but she stayed. Rhea placed a hand on her shoulder. She gave us the weapon to win. Humanity owes her more than words. Varys nodded, tears in her eyes. She gave us our voice back. The captain turned toward the stars. Then let's make sure they hear it. She activated the beacon. Across the black, a new message began to spread. Clear, powerful, human. This is the Terran Armada. The stars are ours again, And far beyond, in the cold emptiness of space, a single echo answered faint, familiar, and human. It was a voice, barely a whisper. We're still here.